question that why we're only talking about sales taxes, because the one area that Louisiana is rich is in our natural resources. And for over 30 years, leaders on both sides of the aisle have proposed processing taxes on oil and gas that would be able to eliminate income and sales taxes. And so we've got a pipeline infrastructure that can't simply be uprooted and moved to other states. Why are we not looking at these other alternatives that don't have the same kind of unnecessary burden on the low and middle class? I guess that's directed to Jason and anybody else who wants to comment.
Well, why don't we get the, why don't we have both legislators and representing the administration? You start, Jason. And then we have the Republican and Democratic response to it. How's that?
Well, I can tell you that the entrees of options that we've looked at are far. I mean, we haven't just looked at the sales tax base. Again, you know, there are other ways that you can increase revenue to the state without just increasing the sales tax rate, and I've gone over those. The latter part of your statement, I think is incorrect in terms of that this is only going to burden the middle and lower income. As I've mentioned earlier, we're looking at the earned income tax credit and a solution. I've worked with Jan. Jan is looking at ranges. I'm looking at ranges so that taxpayers are not in any worse situation. Also, if we get to this uniform base that I'm hearing, maybe Representative Edwards is going to be endorsing the second part of our package, so he likes the uniform base. That means local governments would be exempting the food for home consumption. And again, that's building in a much more progressive element to the sales tax base, because right now, when you walk into the grocery store, you're paying the local portion of the sales tax on those items. And if you can begin to exempt that, then not only by retaining some of these earned income tax credit and other programs, you're further reducing the sales tax burden for middle and low income. Well,
maybe I could ask the question a different way. If you've been looking at all the different alternatives, why was a processing tax eliminated from consideration?
Yeah, and again, you know, of the alternatives that we're looking at, I can tell you currently a processing tax is not in the plan.
No comment on why?
Joel?
Back when Governor Treen introduced it, there were interstate commerce laws that prohibited it, but there have since been cases in the Supreme Court that have now made it legal to do so. And there are, you know, like I said, leaders on both sides of the aisle for 30 years who have said that this would be a great thing for such an impoverished state.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, it's going to be the governor's package and the governor's bill, and you got to start somewhere. There's going to be, I don't know how many amendments that are going to be offered. I would certainly expect to see an amendment offered to say, hey, how about we throw this revenue in there, and with that, what effect will it have on the sales tax, and maybe we even lower the sales tax, and that'll be debated. The folks that feel like oil and gas employs a large number of our constituents, and they don't want to hurt the oil and gas industry, are going to vote one way, and those that feel like that's a good idea are going to vote the other way, and the amendment's either going to get on or get off. But at the draft stage, we've got to come out with a package. They're going to present it to us, and then we're going to go from there, and then the debate begins on how do we want to tweak it.
Your question is a good one, and I didn't obviously come up with a plan, so I can't tell you why what's in it's in it and why what's not is not. But I will tell you, it does. The plan as it exists today does envision a repeal of the exemption from severance taxes, and that has the oil and gas industry screaming in and of itself, and especially the gas portion of that, because natural gas prices are so much lower now than they were just a couple of years ago. So that's certainly a big part of it. Now, Jason mentioned something a while ago about putting some progressive element in what is a regressive structure, and that is the sales tax. You do not make a sales tax progressive when you say lower income people are not going to have to pay that sales tax on groceries or on residential utilities or on pharmaceuticals. Because for that poor widow woman that I represent in Greensburg who goes to the store to buy her food, she's not going to pay that sales tax. And when she pays that utility bill to heat that trailer, she's not going to pay a sales tax. And when she goes to the drugstore, she's not going to pay a sales tax. But it is also true that the individual who owns a 12,000 square foot home in a gated subdivision is not paying a sales tax on that utility bill. And when they go to Whole Foods to buy their Kobe beef imported from Japan, they're not paying a sales tax on that either. And they don't pay a sales tax on their pharmaceuticals. So you don't, that is a neutral factor. It doesn't make it progressive. And I happen to like that policy, but we're not doing a special favor for the poor when we do that. And we shouldn't misrepresent it, because you cannot make a sales tax progressive.